So Mauro Renallo is leaving NXT and the WWE, parting ways as of August the 31st, I believe. So it is bittersweet. So let's talk about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, for
So Mauro Renallo came to the WWE, and I forget what year he came in, but he came into much fanfare because he had come from the world of boxing and MMA. He was well known as a sports announcer. He was also a big fan of pro wrestling, so he knew a lot of the Japanese stuff. He knew, holds. He knew different things about the performers. He knew their histories and stuff like that. But of course, none of that is what Vince McMahon wanted. Vince did not care about any of that stuff. Vince wants you to tell stories on commentary. So Mauro kind of floundered as the voice of, I believe it was SmackDown. Unless I'm wrong. I'm trying to do this again off memory. I think my videos are a little bit more engaging if I'm doing it off memory, because if I have to read something, it's going to come across as very, very robotic. But he was the voice of the WWE. I believe it was SmackDown because he was on there with JBL. And I don't remember JBL being the voice of Raw. I believe that was Michael Cole's job. In any event, he won the Observer. Our Lord and Savior, Dave Meltzer, decided to give Mauro Renallo an award for being the best announcer in the WWE, or the best announcer in wrestling, or something to that effect. Mauro then kind of tweeted about it or talked about it or something like that, and JBL gave him a little bit of a hard time about it. He kind of razzed him a little bit when JBL had a TV show, a very fun show on the network, by the way. I fucking love JBL. I love JBL shows. Like, JBL is a great commentator, not a great wrestler, great character, great commentator. Both of the shows that he had on the network that were really fun. I enjoyed both of them. I hate that both of them have gone the wayside. And JBL gave Mauro Renallo a little bit of a hard time about being a mark and all that type of stuff, and caring about what the dirt sheets think, which is typical of wrestling thing. But of course, JBL got labeled a bully because JBL has a history of bullying, and people decided, fire JBL. We're going to fire JBL. JBL needs to be fired. Of course, Vince did not cave to the mob, because he almost never does. But Mauro went home. He has a very fragile mental health system, mental health problem. He has a bipolar disorder, and being criticized in that way and razzed in that way was not good for his mental health. And I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon yelling in his ear every Friday or Thursday or whatever the fuck SmackDown was on, Tuesday, I think, wasn't pretty good for his mental health. So even though Mauro never personally came out and said that JBL did anything, people just sort of assumed that JBL was the reason, because JBL made a comment about what Mauro had said about the Observer Award, and these two things were tied together. And then Mauro didn't say anything about it when people were attacking JBL on Twitter, even though JBL denied it and the company kind of denied it. Mauro didn't really say anything about it until he was on his way back. And then when he came back, he kind of said that it didn't happen, or that people was overblowing it, or that it wasn't a big deal. But people continued to harbor this negativity about JBL. And JBL, he didn't leave eventually. He left eventually, of course, but he didn't get fired or removed because of the Mauro comment. But Mauro ended up coming back, and he ended up being the voice of NXT, which ended up being a much better job for him. And Mauro Ranallo, as the voice of NXT, gave it a little bit more gravitas, as far as it felt more professional, because Mauro is a professional. Mauro brought a more sports feel to the brand, because he was able to actually bring in everything that he knows about Japanese wrestling, and everything that he knows about the performers, and everything that he knows, and he also got to be very colorful. Mamma mia! And all that stuff. He became sort of the voice, the Jim Ross of NXT, and or I like to say that he's more like the Joey Styles of NXT, because Joey Styles knew the ECW product very well. He knew what that fan wanted to hear from a commentator, and because he knew what that fan wanted to hear, he was able to deliver it with conviction, but it never translated anywhere else. Like when Joey Styles was the voice of Raw, my God, my God, it was not good. And maybe it's because he was overproduced, and he wasn't able to do the job the way he wanted to do it. And Joey Styles also had a history of doing commentary by himself, and he didn't have that on Raw. And WWE is notoriously difficult to do when it comes to commentary. They are very, very rough on commentators. Like, I don't think any position outside of the writing staff, the only the commentary staff is rotating constantly. I remember when Mick Foley did commentary, that didn't last long. It's a revolving door of commentators that WWE goes through because they just run them ragged. And remember Renee Young's short run as a commentator. And but Mauro fit the NXT brand, because it was young, it was vibrant. Mauro might not have been young, but he was vibrant. He could bring a lot of character, a lot of personality to the brand. And in doing so, they ended up pairing him up with some really bad people at first. I think Percy Watkins was one of them, or Percy Watson, whatever the fuck his name is. He was really bad at his job. Nigel McGuinness is actually pretty good. Corey Graves was also pretty good. They're very different. I'll get to that in a moment. And then, of course, it ended up being a 3-person booth with Beth Phoenix, who Mauro Renallo just ran all over. He would get so excited that Beth Phoenix couldn't get a word in. Beth Phoenix would start a sentence, and Mauro would be like, "Oh my goodness, did you see that, Beth?" And then Beth would be like, "Yeah, I saw him." "Oh my goodness, did you see that, Beth?" He'd be like, "Yeah, okay, she saw it, man. She got ears, she got eyes, bro." But they made it a 3-man booth, which was not really good. They had, somebody there, Vic Joseph or whatever, to do what WWE wants the commentators to do. And then Mauro was able to do his thing, and then Beth Phoenix was able to do pretty much color. But I would have liked for, and people started to complain about Mauro over time. Now, Mauro became a meme, of course. Now, Michael Cole became a meme because he's very bad at his job. Mauro became a meme because he was actually very colorful, similar to Jim Ross, where, Jim Ross, all his sayings became memes, all his witticisms, his, slobber knocker and business is about to pick up and all that type of stuff. When you see it in clips, you would see the Mauro Renallo thing. He'd just be like, "Mamma mia!" All the time. How animated he would get. And that was good for the NXT brand because, he was over as a commentator. He was brutal to the people that was around him. But he was brutal to Beth. I mean, not on purpose, of course. But he had this excitement, this energy that he couldn't contain it. He had to if he saw something, he had to let it out. He just had to let it out. And but Beth Phoenix is really bad. I think I said this already, but it bears saying again. Beth Phoenix is really, really bad. She's just on commentary to add a female voice to the product. Nigel McGuinness or Corey Graves, or now they have Wade Barrett, who I love, by the way. We'll talk about him in a minute too. They could have added such a contrast to Mauro Renallo. Now, if you take a Nigel McGuinness or a Wade Barrett, and if you could have added them to Mauro could be up and be colorful and drop his witticisms about Twitter troglodytes and still be able to talk about Sakuraba locks and all that type of stuff. But the wrestler, the Nigel McGuinness or the Wade Barrett or somebody like that, could have continued talking about strategy. Now, Corey Graves is more, he's color, but he's more of a Bobby Heenan, more of a Jerry Lawler. They don't really add that much to the strategy of the match, quote unquote. They add, jokes. They add personality. They add, they have that sort of lane where they're not in the match to talk about. They're in the match to crack jokes about the babyface or crack jokes about the heel, and to guide, sort of accompany the story a little bit. But Nigel McGuinness can tell you what approach you should take to a wrestling match. Wade Barrett also does that. And he also kind of does a little bit of the character stuff too. But that's, I think that could have been a perfect contrast to Mauro Renallo, where you could have Mauro as the up guy and then the wrestler as sort of the level-headed analyst to the product, which is what you put a wrestler there for. You put a wrestler there for to be the analyst. But Jerry Lawler and Bobby Heenan basically just took it to be, it's a job for stand-up commentary, stand-up comedy, and they were really good at their jobs. and I love the Jerry Lawler, Bobby Heenan lane of commentary, but sometimes it's not really useful. In certain matches, it's not useful, and they kind of force it. But it's a good thing. But Mauro became, he started to wear on people when NXT became 2 hours in 2019. A lot of people started complaining about Mauro, that he was talking over Beth, that he would talk over other people, that he was too loud, he was too animated, he was too colorful. They didn't like the references, the pop culture references. Like he would basically talk about whatever was on Twitter. So he might bring up, he knocked him down like Katy Perry, and you'd be like, what the fuck that got to do with this match? But it was basically like whatever was trending on Twitter, Mauro would sort of bring it in to the show to show that but WWE likes being in a bubble. They like to puncture the bubble when they feel like puncturing the bubble, and the fans like that too, by the way. Some people think that, oh, Vince McMahon just wants to live in the bubble. It's like, yeah, sometimes people want to live in bubbles. And, because I'll just mention this here. They did a slight line about Matt Riddle and his affair at Payback. And you could see like all of the tweets. I'm still banned from Twitter, but I did go onto a wrestling website and I saw tweets from like the Archbishop of Talentberry, David Bixenspan, and all the other podcasters. And I called him Archbishop of Talentberry. I got that from Jim Cornette. But it was like all these people saying like, they're bringing rape accusations into the match. They're bringing rape accusations into a storyline. How could they possibly be doing that? But if you ignore this stuff, they say, oh, they just acting like it didn't happen, huh? You're just going to act like it didn't happen. Then if you bring it up, it's also complaining. So, Mauro Ranallo routinely popped that bubble of bringing in pop culture references and bringing in different things from like Japan and other places. And people were kind of like, I don't care about this shit. Why don't Mauro just talk about what's on the screen? Why don't he stop yelling over Beth Phoenix and blah, blah, blah. So he was really given a hard time the last couple of months. And in late August, he decided that he would, he was doing commentary remotely from Canada, where he's from. And he kind of his contract expired. And him and WWE decided to mutually part ways. I don't know if it's going to be permanent or if it's maybe when the pandemic is over, Mauro can come back. Who knows? But I think Mauro was perfect for the NXT brand. So I'm guessing our commentator team now is going to end up being Wade Barrett and Michael Cole III, otherwise known as Vic Joseph, who is, look, he's passable, but he is Michael Cole III. He sounds like Michael Cole. And Mauro Ranallo is not going to be calling the Fatal 4-Way NXT Iron Man Championship match, which would have been a perfect hurrah for him to go out rambling for 60 minutes about these four guys. Would have been a great hurrah for him because he's sort of been the voice for all of the entire title run that I believe that all those guys have been there. I'm pretty sure he started in 2016. So, well, did he? I don't know. I don't know if he was calling NXT when Finn Balor was there. Probably immediately after. But I'm pretty sure he was the voice of most of the Gargano run and the Ciampa run. And I'm pretty sure he was the voice for the whole entire Adam Cole run. So it could have been a nice little send-off for him to be able to call that match in particular with Wade Barrett. And it would have been great, for a last hurrah. It would have been fine. But it's bittersweet. Some people don't like Mauro Ranallo. Some people do. He's very polarizing. I liked him as the voice of NXT. I wouldn't have liked him on SmackDown or Raw, but he added something to NXT. And I much would have rather had him than Beth Phoenix, if we're being honest. Beth Phoenix fucking sucks. So Wade Barrett was introduced to the audience in late August 2020. Wade Barrett, who had been doing commentating for the NWA. Apparently the NWA still is not starting up, even though their talent is just being poached by the week from NWA. But apparently he's looking to sign a longer term deal with NXT, which is great because obviously NXT is the precursor to Nexus. Well, he was on the first NXT because that's where Nexus came from, and Wade Barrett was the leader of Nexus, so that's pretty cool. It comes full circle for It would have been nice if he could wrestle every once in a while, but now that he's doing commentating for the brand, that ought to be pretty cool. So Mauro is going to be missed. Him yelling "Mamma Mia" is I'm not so sure if I want to miss that, or if I want to hear that, there's plenty of recordings of him yelling "Mamma Mia." But he fit the brand. He brought a sports-based background to a more sports-based wrestling product, and it was good. He was colorful, similar into the style of how WWE is a sport, except with more theatrical. That fits Mauro perfectly. But what do you guys think about Mauro Ranallo leaving the WWE? Let me know in the comment section below. Were you ever a fan of his work? If not, tell me why not. If you were, tell me why you were. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you guys later.